So part 4 of the reading is open gap fill. So the format for this part is that you will have one long passage and you will have some spaces or blanks in that passage which you need to fill in, and you don't have any options to help you to choose from to fill the gap. So it will say something like this: for these questions, type the correct answer in each gap. Type only one word in each gap, so just one word. And then you'll have a passage which might look something like this, with some gaps in it, so you need to type in a word that you think fills the gap. So for the technique, the first step I recommend is to read the passage for meaning. If you understand the meaning of the passage, it will be a lot easier to choose the correct answers to fill the gaps. The second step is to fill in the gaps. But if you don't know the words which fill in the gaps, then you're going to need some help. And what will really help you is step 3, which is to identify the type of word. I mentioned this earlier in the video course, that knowing word families and sentence structures in English can really help you out. So knowing what type of word you need, an adjective, a noun, an article, etc. And you can figure that out by the words which are before the gap and also the words which are after the gap. So here's an example. There be a question about. Okay, so we have the verb be, and I know before be, or before any verb in English, you can also have an auxiliary verb. So for example, might or may or could. So it could be that type of word. So that's great. If you do know what word type you need before the gap, that you need to put in the gap, that's great. And then you can choose based on the meaning of the sentence which one is most appropriate. So is it may? Is it must, for example? So you have to decide that based on the meaning of the sentence. So here, there be a question about. Well, the meaning of this, I think, indicates to me, when I look at the whole passage, that we don't know. It's not a must, so I think it's more like may. There may be a question about. Or might. There might be a question about. Now, it is possible that you might not know what type of word goes in the gap. So then you have to base your answer completely on the meaning of the sentence. And again, we could kind of maybe do that here. Question about, well, I don't know if there's definitely a question about. So based on the meaning, I would be thinking also there might be or there may be.